Okay. Human formation in the digital age and the vision for Selden College. This is the last of the keynotes. Yes, we will see where we go. So we began this week looking very briefly at one aspect of what it meant to be human and why that still matters. How the biblical telos-endowed order not only provides meaning and consequence at the heart of the human condition, but also provides the basis for how we are oriented towards the world around us and our own existence. Some of the consequences of abandoning such a vision of humanity has been compellingly and chillingly outlined for us by Jeff Schaefer in the previous two talks. So this morning our topic is human formation in the digital age and the vision for Selden College. The juxtaposition of the idea of human formation in a digital age is striking when on Tuesday I suggested that digital technology was essentially a dehumanizing force. So pursuing human formation in a digital age is like swimming against the tide of a flash flood. It's difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult. This individual and community struggle, therefore, is not dissimilar in many respects to the civilizational struggle Jeff outlined yesterday. Remember how he described the vast deposit of law, tradition, and cultural capital that affirms and submits to the God-ordained natural bond in holy matrimony between husband and wife, parents and children, and in particular mother and child, which remains present with us, yet is competing and clashing with the modern technocracy that enables society to determine relations through choice, consumer contracts, and all administered by the ever-increasing godless state. So you have this civilizational struggle that we are, in one sense, witnessing and participating in. Well, in the same way, but just writ small rather than large, we have before us two competing ideas of human formation, living beside one another. One is deliberate, slow, difficult, but true to the God-ordained nature of human beings, in an ordered creation with a specific telos. The other is the ubiquitous, disordered, diffuse, effortless, and seemingly invisible formation that occurs through digital media, which we have sold ourselves to almost wholesale. Everyone knows about the damage done to individuals and communities and to society as a whole that has been caused by this technological revolution. Yet the solution to these problems is never stop what we are doing. It's always let's do more of what we are doing. Technology is now the only solution to have whatever the problem seems to be. Even if technology was the cause of the problem. And that is the irony. So we all face this battle, this challenge. The choice between slow, deliberate, and difficult versus ubiquitous and easy. It should not be a difficult choice for us to make, yet when our desires are inadequately formed or immoderate or vicious, to quote John Webster, the outcome is not always as it should be. Why make life more difficult than it needs to be? And so the specific lens through which we will look at this topic is attention. Partly because it is vital to the educational tasks as it relates to human flourishing, but it is also because it is where the heat of the battle lies. Okay, attention is the battle, the heart of the battle. Your attention. So what is attention? If we're going to make that the focus of our discussion, what is attention? Now, Ian McGilchrist, in his book The Master and His Emissary, describes attention as a profoundly moral act with significant consequences. And I quote, "Attention creates, brings aspects of things into being, but in doing so makes others recede. What a thing is depends on who is attending to it and in what way. The fact that a place is special to some because of its great peace and beauty may, by that very fact, make it for another a resource to exploit in such a way that its peace and beauty are destroyed." Two people paying attention to the same place view it completely differently. One's attention thrives in and delights in the peace and serenity. The other attention destroys it. The nature of your attention creates, it changes. At this point, you should be picking up on Jeff's first talk and the different ways of knowing he alluded to. The Hebraic knowing that is relational or participational versus the Hobbesian way of knowing that is utilitarian. You see something and you ask the question, how can I use it? These two different ways of attending are opposed and create two very, very different worlds. We are living in a Hobbesian world, but we are, I trust, seeking to renew and rebuild a culture rich with meaning and beauty. How we attend to the world is key to that task. So how we attend to something or someone is not some morally neutral act that affects no change in either the object of attention or you, the one paying attention. How you attend changes the object and the person doing the attending. As such, we need to exercise great discernment in the attention we give and receive. So at this point, I've been talking about attention, yet the question is, what do we mean by the attention? How do we define attention? Anton Barbacay, who I quoted in my first talk from his book, The Web of Our Own Making, describes attention from two perspectives. Firstly, in relationship to who we are. Attention, he says, is the single most intimate expression of who and what we are. Let me read that again. Attention is the single most intimate expression of who and what we are. In other words, how and to what or to whom you attend reveals something about yourself. Secondly, he understands attention in relationship to the objects of attention. And I quote, "Attention is the blessing of our care." Attention is the blessing of our care. So attention reveals something about us, while at the same time giving something of ourselves, our care, to something or someone other. James Williams, in his book Out of Our Light, Stand Out of Our Light, breaks down attention to three categories. There are three categories of attention. What he calls light. He calls them lights. He uses the metaphor of light. He says attention is a spotlight, starlight, and daylight, which he said are all related to, a spotlight is related to how we live, doing, starlight in relationship to being, and daylight in relationship to knowing. So there are different types of attention, and they relate to all aspects of our being. So thus far, how we attend, to whom, to what we attend, is a moral act that both changes us and changes the object of attention. It affects what we do, who we are, and what we know. As such, it reveals much about who we are and what we care about. and you just thought you were noticing something. Now, if this is the case, then we need to be set free from the continual grabbing at our attention by events or baubles or whatever it is that it wants to grab our attention. And we need to be more deliberate in directing our attention to noble objects and noble ends, or virtuous objects and virtuous ends. But we also need to be aware of the ways in which we ourselves come under others' attention and how that can change us either for good or for ill. Eliot, again, from Burnt Norton, has this line. Very simple line, but I like it. For the roses had the look of flowers that are looked at. For roses had the look of flowers that are looked at. In other words, they blossomed. They enjoyed the attention. The roses looked like they'd had the attention of those looking around the garden and enjoying the rose. What you love will become lovely, assuming that is not contrary to its nature. What you love will become lovely. And those who are loved become lovely. Attention matters. Marriages, families, communities are transformed through the attention of a husband to a wife, or a wife to a husband, a mother to her children. That attention changes that person. So when we consider human formation, attention, and whose attention we come under is fundamental to how humans are formed or unformed. So how does technology play into this? How does digital technology play into this discussion? So Jeff, quoting C.S. Lewis, talked about how in scientism we have become the objects of science. And of course, as we have said all the way through and is obvious, we are the objects of the technocracy. Digital technology is an attention economy. That's a ubiquitous understanding of digital technology. It's an attention economy. James Williams, who used to be part of it, put it this way: digital technology is a machine designed to harvest our attention wantonly and in wholesale. Okay, digital technology is designed to harvest our attention wantonly and in wholesale. It's after one thing: your attention. Barbara Kay says, digital tools represent a new stage in the development of technology. They make our attention itself the subject of their measurement, control, and design. And later, tech is an attention extraction industry, an apparatus of the will, and in this sense of the spirit. That is what they want. That's all they want. We have become the object of technologies or technocracy, or the people behind technologies' attention. And that attention changes and develops with the sole intention of what? Gaining a greater and greater share of our attention. And we change under that gaze. We change under that attention, but only as far as we succumb to the relentless urge to give our attention away in that context. So how does it go about stealing our attention? Now, the striking thing about digital technology is both a tool and a medium of communication and information. And in one sense, this is where the phone stands out, the smartphone, because it is the master tool, more so than a laptop or a tablet, but those are connected to this idea. The phone is a monopolizing instrument. It is used for everything now. It's like Barbara Kay talks about the master tool. It is used for everything. So the tool, that object, that device, monopolizes your attention, as it offers you access to everything and everyone now. And now, and now, at all times, 24/7. You have access to everything and everyone at all times. Which is one of the factors that makes it a simulacrum of an omnipotence, this promising of sort of semi-divine status of making you as gods in order to be able to do these things. Barbara Kay quotes DeLillo, who says this: "Whoever controls your eyeballs controls the world." Whoever controls your eyeballs controls the world. And that's a striking statement, if it's true. But technology has developed a device that is controlling the world's eyeballs, because you do everything on it. It's your means of talking to your husband, your wife, your family. It's the means of finding out how to get to see your wife and family if you're, or their in-laws when you're traveling. It's the means of finding out information. And we make jokes about it. You know, Malcolm McIntyre, what did he do before phones? You know, how you take your encyclopedias with you, your photographs with you, you know. And everyone laughs and thinks it's hilarious. And it is. He does it because he's very funny. But the master tool monopolizes your attention. Now, once your attention is narrowed to a specific medium, the competition begins to draw your attention to specific content or sites or whatever it is you want to use it for. That's where the competition lies. There's no, different people produce a different type of phone. It doesn't matter whether it's iPhone or a Samsung or whatever other phones there are. I have no idea. Everyone's competing. Now that we've got everyone looking at these devices all the time for everything, now the competition goes, now we need your attention. How do we do that? Notifications, feeds. When you watch something or read something, they take note. It's recorded, and what do you get in response? You get suggestions about what to read, that you might be interested in something else. The competition for your attention becomes, in the end, a competition to best predict what you want. And then they give it to you in the way that makes it, as accessing it, as effortless as possible. So all the best minds and the most talented people in the world are going to the highest paid jobs, and that thinking is to decide, how do I get someone to read this site over and against this one. So think, how hard was it before to get news? You had to get up in the morning, and you had to walk down to the shop, and you had to buy a printed piece of paper that vast numbers of people had worked on overnight, and then had been delivered around the country for you to get back, and then you had to sit down and then read. Now it's just fed to your device. You don't even have to get out of bed. But the question is, how do you get your paper for your eyeballs to go on that paper? And that's what the whole industry is. And therefore, marketing or clickbait. We all know what that means. All these are tactics are seeking to offer rewards to you for giving attention. And marketing and clickbait simply targets our ill-formed passions and habits with the aim to keep people returning for more. And of course, when you keep people returning for more, what are you developing? Habits. At this point, I could do a little excursus, which I'm going to do, Christians play this game. There's the idea that they're exploiting the system for good ends. If you put the shocking title on your magazine article, or if you capture this and send them another one that's like this, they go, look, we're exploiting it for good end. We're giving them good content, not bad content. But that's because the world has been reduced to content and not understood in relationship to the formation of a human being in relationship to its ordered end. And so you may be giving them good content, but you're making them bad people because you're forming bad habits. Every time you fish for attention using those tricks and tools, you get someone's attention and you strengthen the bad habit that you exploited to get that attention. You form them negatively. You make them less able to swim against the tide of this flash flood that's not so flash now, it's constant. And here Barbecue makes a very, very striking statement. The more we are rewarded, the less we are fulfilled. The more we are rewarded, the less we are fulfilled. If undivided attention is a discipline, if attention is the blessing of our care, then the digital teaches us that we are always pulled away from it into the fragments of an absent-minded void. So how do we combat this? What resources do we have? Can we name the problem that renders us vulnerable to what has been called attentional serfdom? The answer is yes, there is. That's within the tradition, the Christian tradition. We are fallen. Our intellects are fallen, and so inadequately formed and inadequately disciplined. And so the battle for attention is an uphill struggle for us. But the church has thought deeply about this and highlighted the virtues and vices attached to these intellectual appetites, of which attention is one. So let's listen to Augustine, okay, on his Holy Trinity. This is Book 10, Chapter 1, Paragraph 3. Wherefore, in all cases, the love of a studious mind, that is, of one that wishes to know what it does not know, is not the love of that thing which it does not know, but of that which it knows, on account of which it wishes to know what it does not know. Or if it is so curious as to be carried away, or dragged away would be stronger, not for any other cause known to it, but by the mere love of knowing things unknown, then such a curious person is doubtless distinguishable from an ordinary student, who's perhaps not interested in knowing, yet does not any more than he love things he does not know. Nay, on the contrary, he is more fitly said to hate things he knows not, of which he wishes that there should be none, in wishing to know everything. Now that's difficult. Okay? Let's walk through what he's saying. The studious mind is being contrasted to the curious mind. So studious mind is an intellectual virtue, and curiosity, in this meaning, is an intellectual vice. Okay? It is wrong. You're all going to be going, I get praised for my curiosity. Let's not worry about that just at the moment. Okay? So the love of the studious is prompted by what he or she knows, not by what they don't know. They may want to learn something they don't know, but their love is prompted by what they know already. And here Augustine is referring to God himself as the ultimate love. The curious are dragged away by a love that is directed towards the unknown. Because the nature of the loves are different. The love of the studious is towards that which is known. The The love of the curious is towards that which is unknown, and that love drags them away. However, that love, Augustine says, is hatred, really, because they want to know everything and leave everything and remove anything that's unknown. So it can't be described love because they want to remove it from the world. The studious, it is implied, love that which is known, God, and on account of that love, wishes to know what he does not know. In other words, he wants to know that which will direct his love towards that which he already loves. Everything is driven. I mean, it's Augustine, so everything has to be driven by love, because that's what he talks about. So studiousness, if I were to define it in relationship to the talk we're giving now, is virtue's attention to what is not known, brought about by a love for God, with the goal of that knowledge forming within the individual a greater love for the source of that knowledge. Okay? Studiousness, let me go with that again. Virtue's attention to what is not known, brought about by a love for God, with the goal of that knowledge forming within the individual a greater love for God, who is the source of that knowledge. And that is a transformative attention towards the good. Whereas curiosity is a vicious attention, vicious coming from the word vice, not simply just violence, vicious attention to what is not known, driven by hubris and an inordinate and ill-disciplined desire to possess knowledge for its own sake. Now that is a transformative attention towards the bad in Augustine's setting. So why is curiosity vice? And here John Webster helps us. He says, curiosity is the disorder of the intellectual appetite in which created intellectual powers are applied to improper objects of new knowledge. Curiosity seeks to know created realities without reference to their creator, as phenomena, not as created things. Okay? We're going to the Hobbesian versus the Hebraic that Jeff referred to, and we've talked about it a lot. And the process of coming to know takes place inordinately, indiscriminately, and pridefully. So the intellectual vice of curiosity is inordinate, it's promiscuous, it's excessive, it's never satisfied. And therefore is unstable. It is indiscriminate, completely random, and without judgment or restraints. It's prideful. It's the result of hubris, this desire to be as God. Novelties for the curious become endless sources of fascination, whose attention hops from one to the other, to the other, to the other. So curiosity seeks knowledge absent of any structure, limits, boundaries, or natural ends. It settles on surfaces, Augustine would say, and does not push through to the truth and the end of all knowledge, the worship and contemplation of God. So Webster describes curiosity as intellectual greed. I think I would, if I could dare to refine anything John Webster said, it's more akin to intellectual gluttony, which is sort of almost uncontrollable. You've lost control of the appetite. Curiosity wants possession and utility. Or to put it another way, curiosity, the intellectual vice of curiosity is the heartbeat and life breath of digital technology's pursuit of your attention. The creators of digital technology know us well and target our vices, not our virtues. But they sell those vices to you as virtues. But also, not only that, remember, their attention is on you. They target your devices, and in doing so, their attention is causing you and to create in you the very vice that they're exploiting. Listen to Barbara Kay again. It is not simply that digital technology makes it harder to attend or to heed or to exercise the control of the negative capability, as Keats called it. It is that it makes it plain that given the choice, we would prefer not to. That we would rather be online than sustain attention to anyone or anything. The digital forces us as no other technology to face the unquenchable lust of the mind to be diverted nowhere to no end. The commonplace seductions of what we know to be smaller satisfactions. I mean, that's a brilliant way of describing it, because it offers you reward, but the rewards do not bring fulfillment, but they do bring what he describes as what? Smaller satisfactions. So how does Selden fit into this? This is the world we're in. This is the flood in which we have to swim against. And we believe that education requires the formation of the whole student. Moral, spiritual, intellectual. We are in the business of human formation and flourishing according to the divine order that is present in creation. And therefore the students' and the faculty's attention is central to that task. If you're going to be a student at Selden, your attention is front and center. It is the most important thing. Your attention. But also, the faculty's attention on you is also important. So we want students to exercise their attention well, who want to come under faithful teachers' attention, not unfaithful teachers' attention. Yet it is a task that is set before us at a time when attention is most under threat. We are, as Eliot said, distracted from distraction by distraction. That is the status of our lives. And big tech continues to invent ways of circumventing the deleterious consequences of our sinful proclivities. Reading well is hard. It has never been harder. Careful thought and the following of a complex argument is hard and getting harder. Not because the arguments are harder, but because our ability to attend carefully to the matter is so depleted. Giving sustained attention to the nature of a problem requires discipline and patience, and it is difficult. Human formation is a lifelong task that involves attention and involves consciously bringing yourself under the attention of those who love you enough to offer faithful critique and discipline. None of these human-forming habits are traits of the curious mind that thrive and flourish in the world of digital technology in its numerous forms. And technology cannot form that sort of mind in you. So I'm not making Selden sound very appealing. Perhaps not. But I want to remind you of Barbara Kay's important insight I quoted earlier. The more we are rewarded, the less we are fulfilled. The more we are rewarded, the less we are fulfilled. Your nature, as we have said on various occasions, presents itself to you as a vocation. And the more attention you give to that vocation, the more joy you will know. So there is much prayer and attention given to forming a Selden College education that is founded on the worship of God and culminates in the worship of God. And our hope is that it will aid our students in their vocation to reach the God-ordained end which God has placed in your nature and that presents itself to you as a vocation. We want students who come to Selden to consider studying at Selden as a means to conform their purposes in life towards that end, who set about all aspects of our education, morning worship, various classes, music, the call to personal holiness and virtue, with an attention that will not only change their world, but also equip them to be a means in God's hand to change the world of others as well. Because we'll be developing that habit of studiousness, that attention that is directed to the good rather than curiosity, which is a habit that attends to the and leads to the bad. We need much prayer to do that, because we are all saturated in this world. All of our attention is being sucked from us. And what is happening in education as a result of that? What do? We will conform to the world that the students currently inhabit. And so technology plays an increasing role in their education, and they basically conform to the vice that digital technology has encouraged. And Selden goes, no, that's not what we're going to do. And we need great wisdom to do that. We need eyes to see the back of our heads. We need counsel and advice. And so please pray for us as we do that.